Hi, it's Des here. I'm in Denver, Colorado at Commvault GO 2019. I had the privilege of being joined by Chris Powell, who's the Chief Marketing Officer for Commvault. Chris, great to see you.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Thanks for
In
making
Denver.
time to catch up on camera, and thanks for having me at the event. An honor and a privilege. Commvault GO 2019, an amazing event. I love the whole format, day zero as I'm calling it, sort of the training and certification and networking opportunity. As I mentioned to you off camera before, at last night's drinks, I noticed there were two individuals behind me chatting away, and then they quickly realized that they were competitors and working for competitive companies, but within minutes they realized they were birds of a feather and solving the same problem, and that they had Commvault as a partner and so forth in common. And the networking was just phenomenal. I thought to myself, that is kind of like the success story just there, above and beyond the amazing event. For viewers though, I'd love to maybe just get you to give us a bit of a backstory on kind of the Commvault GO thing, so sort of where it came from, the evolution of it, and I guess how it came to be essentially the crown jewel of the brand.
Yeah, well, and I think so this is our year 4, and certainly as we were establishing this, it was, the goal was pretty straightforward, right? Which was, we've got an incredibly robust product line, and as we were looking at our community of our partners, our customers, and all of the folks who sort of are working with Commvault, that there was an opportunity to try to build that community to be even stronger.
Right.
So whether you want to call it the cult of Commvault, or I sort of sometimes playfully,
cult of Commvault. I like that. There's a t-shirt waiting to be made with that.
Well, and I also sometimes call it the lunatic fringe, right? There's a great group of people that really, they care about this company. There's people inside the company that really care about the company, but what's fascinating is there's so many of our customers and partners that really care about the company. And it's, so establishing this event was a chance to be able to establish that community. And it also sort of serves as a line in the sand each year, as getting our story straight, making sure that we're bringing everyone together, and I think for a lot of companies, these kinds of events serve as that purpose too. It's sort of that line where you need to have your act together at a certain
milestone
point.
To hit every year, to sort of just reset and then start again. I like that. It's an interesting concept. I'm going to borrow that line. One of the other things I liked about this was that beyond the networking piece was there didn't seem to be a sales pitch. I haven't actually found a single sales pitch here, and it might sound a bit sycophantic to say that, but I've been in a lot of events where it's just bang, 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 marketing, sell, marketing, sell. I found that I was being made aware of things, I was being educated about stuff, and if and when I wanted to, I could engage. And I think that, you've got like 45 developers here, for example, which is phenomenal, where people can engage and talk about real world problems, and they can get that feedback on how to solve that problem at the platform. That was a pretty cool thing. So I think, and congratulations on that whole format, because I think that's such a unique approach to not selling but telling in many ways. You must get some great feedback from the partners and integrators you got here that's an experience to have as well.
It is, and you're right that it is different, but I don't think it should be.
No, I agree, but the fact that you have is a testament to yourself and the team around you that have made that happen.
One of the jokes I've been telling recently around the world of marketing is that a terrible thing has happened in marketing. We have to be honest. And
God forbid.
I know, it's horrible. It's when you look at the amount of information that's out there, when you look at what our customers and what our prospects are looking to really understand as they talk to us, there's a great line that someone used with us as we were developing some of the messaging, which is, talk to me like I'm your friend. And
I like that.
So much of what we're trying to do at this event really surrounds that, which is, look, we're confident about our solution. And in Stamp,
and rightfully so.
And so the good news is we have truth on our side, and the solution is one that we want to bring true experts from both within Commvault as well as around the overall ecosystem together, partners and other third-party experts, to be able to have an honest conversation. It's serious. This is a serious topic as we're building this out, and a lot of companies are coming to this, and they come back to Commvault GO year after year because they can sit and have that honest conversation. We have 45 developers here this year.
I can't wait to go and have a chat with them myself, frankly.
It's amazing.
I want to see the caliber of them. But you touched on something there with regard to, this is a very serious topic, but you've managed to not bring so much a lighthearted approach to it, but a relaxed approach to being able to just take a deep breath, step back and look at the challenges and what you're going to face going forward. Because I think when I look at the companies like Commvault, one of the things that strikes me is that you've got to be ahead of the curve all the time, right? So you can't be in reactive mode. So when we're talking about containerized and refactored code in containers like Docker and orchestration automation on Kubernetes, in which we had a chance to interview someone today about the whole cloud story of public cloud, private cloud, the multi-cloud hybrid piece. This is stuff that companies are gearing up for now to get ready and deal with, and the digital transformation. But you've had to go through the digital transformation journey yourselves. That's the first customer to do that yourselves, and then take your clients. You've had to cloudify yourselves. You've had to put the DevOps automation orchestration in place. So you've been the first customer. You've eaten your own dog food, then taken to the market, but you've had to do it ahead of the curve. So that you're ready and waiting and willing to offer that as a service, and that must bring an enormous number of challenges with it, just as a fundamental undertaking.
Yeah, and I think as Sanjay sort of puts this, every organization is moving from something to something.
Right.
And it's an ever-ending journey as they're doing that. So as we have looked at building up the value we're trying to bring to our overall customers, you're totally right. The software that we're trying to leverage, and just even within the marketing organization, we're very much a data-driven organization. The days of napkins and cupcakes are past, and this is about bringing data to the party and understanding how to drive the best possible. And you mentioned sales and not being a sales pitch. In a lot of ways, what I would tell you is that this event is built around the modern sales pitch, and what the modern sales pitch should be is, I'm relevant, right? Like you're having a conversation because I know enough about you, you know enough about us, and we can have an honest conversation about how we can drive value. And that's really what sales always should be about. So it's not trying to sell you something that you don't need, it's trying to represent something that we believe we can bring value and that you honestly feel can bring value as well.
Well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because when we were talking on the podcast the other day, the word value came up. I drew it in the middle of the page with a big circle around with an arrow to remind myself that if you're an organizer,
remind yourself of value.
Well, just that key point that you mentioned, because I think that, talking to Al Bunty earlier on, he said that one of the rationales behind, as a co-founder of the company, was they wanted to look at how do they provide that value aspect, how do they differentiate through looking at investing in being able to provide support, investing in R&D, investing in just being there for the clients in the consultative fashion.
It's true.
So that was baked into the DNA. So when you mentioned value the other day, and you just reminded me of it reminded me of a phrase my dad gave to me, actually, which was, if you can create value, money invariably follows, but in a positive sense, right? I think that's something you embody as an organization in your culture as a company, and it comes out in your behavior and what you do every day. And that must be an interesting challenge. And off the camera, you mentioned that you've got an amazing team around you, and that's, at the end of the day, people do business with people, and people work with people to drive business. If you haven't got a good team around you, you're not going to go anywhere, are you? I think that's one of the things I noticed. And watching the keynotes this morning, what was interesting was that Hedvig, for example, you had the founder and CEO of Hedvig on there, and what was interesting watching both the gentlemen on there with Sanjay and I forget the gentleman's name from Hedvig, you can see the same Avinash, same level of passion about just the challenges they're facing, rather than pushing a brand or pushing a sales pitch. And you can see it in people's eyes. I'm passionate about this and I want to help you fix that. And I think that's, the acquisition of Hedvig, for example, just seemed a native, natural fit, other than the fact that it was a good technology stack.
And you hit something that we didn't really touch on at this show at all, that is, the technology fit was one that we saw pretty much even before we entered into conversations. The cultural fit was something we were really pleasantly surprised about. And the Rajiv, who is our head of products, immediately came to the conclusion that this is not just great technology, it's a great group of people. The development community that came with Hedvig and all the others that surround that organization are really solid folks.
Well, I think it's, again, a situation of birds of a feather, solving individual and unique problems have come together and expand it. Now, I know that's given you an amazing new capability in a space you've been wanting to go for a while. And now you've got Metallic, which is, I guess, at the other end of the spectrum, because you've had a great first acquisition with Hedvig, and that's gone so seamlessly. I think the market's paying great attention to that. But Metallic, a startup inside a 20-odd-year-old company, which we hear stories about, they don't always go well. And the other thing I liked about this was that normally you would put a business case together and go and seek funding and support and sponsorship from an executive to get it. This came from the top of the food chain. It was like, here's a market opportunity, let's go. And so you didn't have to sell this thing. But it seemed to me that the entire thing went from end to end as a dream story. And I'm sure there's a range of reasons, but you've built successful business on great technology and regular rollouts and deployment updates and patches. That must have flown into the Hedvig story in some way. What can you share around that whole journey from ideation to becoming a live product and on the stage this morning?
I think there's so many aspects that has made this successful to this point, and certainly much further to go. it started with a relatively simple idea, and I think the best things that often come out of something that's pretty straightforward, which is Sanjay came in and he said, we've got great technology. How do we bring that great technology to more people?
Right.
And as the SaaS market is continuing to grow, we needed to identify ways that we believed that we could take some of our industry-leading technology, but deliver it in a way that you need to have it delivered in a SaaS solution. And the next thing we realized is that a lot of people think, when you think of SaaS, the first thing people typically think of is, well, it should be easy, right? It's easy enough to use, easy enough to install. That's sort of the thought process around SaaS in terms of the product experience. What we found as we were doing this, though, and we talked to a lot of customers, a lot of prospects, a lot of partners, is that there were sort of three aspects that people were looking for. Easy was one of them, for sure. But then they were looking for scale, and they couldn't find one. There wasn't a solution in this space that could scale. So as they went SaaS and they continued to grow their data footprint, they were running into problems. And then the next was agility, and I hate these words sometimes, right? They sound so silly, but all agility means is, do they have the flexibility of where to put their data, right? So these were the choice. And so these were the key things that were coming out. And then as we did more research, we found that the majority of folks that were looking at this market said, there really isn't a solution that is easy. There isn't a solution that scales, and there isn't a solution that provides that flexibility. And so the folks who were looking at this, and we brought in both industry veterans from within Commvault, as well as bringing a number of people from outside the organization, and really created a blend of thought process of people who truly understood the industry with people who could come in and think about this through a user experience standpoint. And look, even inside, we were a little bit pessimistic as to whether or not we could deliver this by Go. It was a very, very ambitious.
It's a heady challenge.
Yeah, and Sanjay is right. About 2 weeks ago, I was leaving the office at probably about 9:30 at night, and David No, who was the product lead for us, was walking in the office with 2 huge bags of Chinese food. And he said, there's 18 people upstairs, and we have to feed them. So the mindset that this team brought to within the company truly was a startup kind of mindset. And even this show, when you look around this show now, it's we've worked really hard for this to be a more of a energetic feel that you would get in that kind of environment.
Well, you've got the campfire chats that are happening regularly, and they are fantastic. You've got the developers available to talk directly to them, which is a fairly unique thing. I can't remember an event that's had that number of key developers, I think maybe 1 or 2 on stage, but not literally sitting and whiteboarding. That's phenomenal. And just that passion. And congratulations on both the Hedvig acquisition and the Metallic launch, because I think either of those is a heady undertaking to pull them both off. It's phenomenal. But again, that goes back to I guess the capability of the brand, and that you're rolling out regular periodical updates and patches, and you respond quickly to problems. So for folk who are either here or predominantly the bulk of the people who are not here around the world watching, I mean, Commvault GO has been an exciting first day today, another day tomorrow. What are some of the key takeaways that you want them to gain from this whole experience? I mean, I think one of the things with these big events, in my experience, is that it's what happens after the event. You come here, you experience it, it's great, you network, you get the wow factor, you learn a lot, but then you've got to take it back and put it into practice. I'm keen to get your thoughts around what would you, as Chris Powell, the Chief Marketing Officer of the company first, and then the brand, ideally, what would you like them to go back to their offices, their organizations, think, well, we need to put this on our standard boardroom agenda every month to talk about, or I should be talking about this, my Agile Scrum stand-ups, because you're literally at the bleeding edge of putting this together and knowing the conversations you want to have. What do those conversations look like going forward, and what are some of the topics you'd love people to take away?
Well, I think I can almost bring those both together, because and it gets back to the truth side of things, right? That pesky truth. It's
always there somewhere.
It's terrible. So as we've been looking at this concept that we've introduced here of data readiness, of be ready, which is the tagline now. So the marketing side of this really did come out of something that was rooted in what do we believe customers are looking for, and in their data environment, something that they strive for is peace of mind. And as we did our research, we were finding more and more of our customers were talking about this peace of mind. They get peace of mind with Commvault, and it's the next step of peace of mind. What gives you peace of mind is, well, I feel like I'm ready with my data. The next piece then is sort of what the big takeaway is, which is what does that even mean to be ready with your data? Is sort of a made up phrase, right? So, but being ready with your data means that it's protected, Seems pretty obvious, so it's available when you need it. The next piece with the Hedvig acquisition is that you really can control where it is.
Right.
So that control layer of where this data is residing, especially as you're evolving your overall infrastructure and you continue to make some of those choices, you avoid that lock-in challenge, and you ensure you have that level of control.
And particularly at large scale.
Yes, yeah. And in many ways, one of the things that Avinash talks about is the democratization of what some very large companies have been able to do, whether that's Facebook or others, and bringing software-defined technology and cloud-like infrastructures, that you can do this into environments of all sizes. And so if the first two are, make sure you can recover, that's part of being ready. The other is make sure you can control where that data resides, that's part of being ready. And then the last two is being able to manage it against your policies and regulations, GDPR compliance, all the different regulations that there's more than we can even begin to mention. And then the final piece is serving it up for use cases, and that's the Commvault Activate solution in terms of using the data. So what we say, and I'll go back even to my old SAP days, when 20 years ago, and it's hard to believe it's 20 years, SAP first came out with the best run concept, right? The best run businesses run SAP. And when we were first conceiving of that, and if you think about it from that standpoint, it was, well, what does that even mean, best run? So at that time, what SAP said was, well, you have three things you're trying to manage as your company, which is you're trying to manage your human resources, your physical assets, and your financial assets. And that's what ERP did at the time, and still does today. So the concept was, if you're a best run business, then those are the three things you would run really well. So with being data ready, we sort of take that same kind of logical strain to say, well, what would it mean to be ready with your data? And we're defining it as, well, it's protected, that you can control where it resides, that you can manage it for your policies, and you're actually using it and getting value from it. So that's what being ready with your data is. So it sounds like marketing spin of it, but as you unpack each one of these things, they're really real.
I guess the key from that is that they're all actionable. And so you hit the nail on the head there, because from this, when we go away, we need to think about, well, I learned a lot, well, what can I actually go and put into action? What can I start to talk about tomorrow, whether it's at the water cooler or the Scrum stand-ups, or whether it's in the boardroom every month. Because we go to many events around the world and we see things, but we can't always take them back in action. I think you've just absolutely nailed it by capturing some of those actionable things.
And there's great questions people can ask. Like the ransomware side of things is a topic that a lot of people talk about, but the real question is, can you recover from a ransomware attack? Right? And the scary reality for a lot of companies is, if they were hit by a ransomware attack, the amount of time, if they could recover, the amount of time it would take them to recover is not acceptable.
It would put them out of business in many cases.
Yeah, so there's a lot of this frame that we're looking to have these conversations with our customers and through our ecosystem with our partners, that it really works to frame the right conversations from the boardroom all the way down into the data center.
I like it. In fact, earlier this morning, someone said something very similar from your team, and that was that without it sounding like a sales pitch, they would like people to reach out earlier than later on the maturity curve of their journey of solving problems, so that you can help them avoid pitfalls you've already seen across your ecosystem, and then you can bring the right partners through your ecosystem, and integrators and VARs and resellers to bring that capability, so that they could stay focused on their core business. If they're a bank or a transport company or a logistics company or an aviation company, stay doing that and be the best at it, and let you and your team and the ecosystem around it help solve that problem and avoid the pitfalls, because a lot of companies spend millions of dollars learning. Fail and fail fast is great, but if you do it too many times, it starts to hurt.
And a lot of these environments, this is these challenges, especially when you get to larger institutions, it's not that the protection of data and the utilization of data it's not that inherently you think, well, this is going to be incredibly complex and challenging, but when you then start to look at the infrastructure that a lot of these environments are working in, the number of applications that they're working with, the advent of the cloud, multi-cloud, the way these applications are being developed, the different types of data, the volume of the data, it becomes complicated really quickly.
And exhausting.
And we're even finding some of the new features that they put in, and it sounds like AI washing when people talk about it. So the artificial intelligence features that we've initially put into the product are real. So, and I'll give you the example of it. It's so each day as you're planning what your backup, the order of your backup jobs need to be set for, it's becoming increasingly difficult as a human to be able to really understand, well, in what order do I want to set these, at what time should they start, all of these different variables based on the infrastructure, based on other things happening in your business. There's so many different variables to consider that what artificial intelligence does today within our product is just that, I'll call it simple process that a lot of organizations, they have a backup administrator or someone within their organization that might have to spend an hour every day trying to figure that out. And then the next day they just try to figure it out again. This is a perfect use case where you can use artificial intelligence to just intelligently say, this is my environment, this is what happens different times of the quarter, different times of the month, so that they can plan things and make sure that different jobs that may take longer, jobs that fail more often can be scheduled in different ways.
Well, that's magic machine learning, isn't it? You build a model, you apply it to it, and you throw 1,000 calls at it and make decisions that would take 1 billion years in a second and avoid issues. Well, congratulations on an amazing event. I know it's only day one, but I know tomorrow's going to be bigger and better. I'm looking forward to spending a bit of time in the morning going around and looking at some of the partner opportunities that are on the floor. And I think it's a testament to yourself and your team and the brand that you've now reached this point. I can only imagine that you've got an amazing challenge next year to up the ante a bit. So
it's
I look
every
forward
year,
to what
hero
that
to
looks
zero.
like. That's the one.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, it's been great to see you, and thank you so much for making time to jump on camera with me. And it was fantastic to have you on the podcast the other day. We got some great feedback.
Thanks.
And look forward to having you on the podcast with the camera again sometime soon. And
sounds good.
Your next event, and thanks for having me here.
Great. Well, Des, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.